Today's video is a really special one because I'm going to be taking you guys through my birth story of what happened, all the details of how I went into labor on my birthday last year. So I'm really excited. It's been almost a year and I just cannot believe how fast time has gone, how crazy this last year has been, and I'm just like so excited to be able to share all the details with you guys. As I was going back through it today, I was literally getting so emotional thinking about how this little dude has changed our lives so much, and I just can't believe that it's been a year. Instead of just sitting here and like telling you about it, we thought that it would be really fun if we actually took you through each like place of where things happened along the birth story. So let's start at the very beginning. It was May 30th, 2019. It was my 23rd birthday. I was 39 weeks and 3 days pregnant with Krew, so I was there. I was like ready for baby to come, and I was super uncomfortable and heavy and just like feeling all of the emotions. His due date was June 3rd. I love birthdays and I love my own birthday, so I know Connor tried really hard to make this day special, even though I was like super uncomfortable and it was kind of hard because I was like 39 weeks pregnant. So what was I like gonna do to celebrate? I wasn't able to like surf or anything like that, but we woke up that morning and Connor made me an acai bowl because that's my favorite, and it was so bomb. I told Connor that my biggest birthday wish was to be able to go into labor on my birthday, and I was mostly joking, but I think Krew knew that he wanted to make his mom's day. We first decided that we wanted to go to I decided that I wanted to go to the beach and hang out with my friends, so we invited everybody, and we'll take you to the beach that we went to. This is the beach that we went to. We sat our umbrellas up right there with all of our friends, and Connor surfed out there. The waves were a lot bigger than they were today. They were like the best waves that there'd been in like such a long time, so he literally surfed for 4 hours. And we had no idea that I was gonna go into labor that day, but it turned out to be a really bad idea that he surfed for that long because he was so tired later that night. Like I said, all of our friends came and us girls sat out and like laid out while the boys surfed, and we floated like in the waves all the way down in the shore break, and it was so fun. I felt like weightless and just so happy. I feel like being in the ocean was like my saving grace when I was pregnant because I like felt weightless, so it really helped like my back pain and things like that. And I kept feeling as I was sitting like in my beach chair that I was like peeing, but sometimes when you're pregnant you just like don't know what your body's doing, and so I really didn't think much of it, and I was like, oh, it's probably not that big of a deal, and I just kept getting in the water and swimming. And as I'm like thinking back, I feel like my water had probably already broke by then, but I just like didn't know. I just kept playing and hanging out, and then we got like super hungry, so we decided to go to our favorite place, Surf and Salsa, to get burritos, and I had like the best meal of my life, and I was so full. I ate so much. I had like burritos and then chips and salsa, and it was so good. I'm gonna go pick up our burritos, okay boys?
Alright, be safe.
I got a burrito, we had chips and salsa, and it was so good. I just ordered the same meal that we had here a year ago. Here it is, my friends. The best California burrito you'll ever have in your life, I promise. That's what I ate for my last meal before I had Krew. And while I was like eating, I remember still feeling like peeing or something, but I didn't really think too much of it. And then we started driving back home, and I literally had to pee so bad, like so bad. So I told Connor, I'm like, pull over, and we pulled over right here. I opened the car doors and I was like, oh my gosh, I literally can't wait. I opened them like this, and I literally peed like this out of the car. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that it probably was my water that had already broken, and it was crazy. So by that point, my water had definitely broke, I just didn't know it, and so we headed back to our apartment. So we got back in the car and we started driving back to our apartment, and we had made like some birthday plans with all of our friends to come over and have like cookies and ice cream. So it was about like 7:30 and we got home around 8, and they were gonna come over. Okay, it's high school graduation going on right now. Oh my gosh, hence the fireworks and all the honking and stuff. We're at like where our old apartment was, and obviously we're not gonna go in because we don't live there anymore, but so we got back to the house and we were both feeling like super uneasy because we had had no idea what to expect and we didn't know if I actually was in labor. So when I got home, I went to the bathroom and it was just like so much water, so I decided like I'm gonna call the doctor. So I called the doctor and she was like, you gotta get to the hospital and get checked. And the hospital is an hour away, so we're like, crap, like we gotta like pack a hospital bag and it's gotta be good because we can't like just like drive home if we need something. So we were pretty frazzled and stressed, like packing our bags for the hospital. I had no idea what to expect. We were just like throwing things in the bag. Our bags, threw them in and headed to the hospital. And as we were like running out our door, I remember like yelling to our upstairs neighbor Lo. I was like, dude, I think I'm in labor, like my water broke, I think. And she was like, what? No way. And I was like, I'll text you and we'll update you on what's next. So this was us driving to an hour away to the hospital and we were so nervous. I remember just like having no idea what to think. I remember like turning on music and being like, just couldn't think about like anything else. I was just so, I had a lot of anxiety because I just like had no idea what to expect. And I wasn't feeling any contractions and I didn't know if I should be, so it was really weird. And we like FaceTimed our families and told them like, hey, we're on our way to the hospital. I mean, I think like my water broke, but we don't know. And they were all super excited. It was really late for them. I still like didn't think that they were gonna admit us. We really kind of thought that we were gonna get there and then they were gonna turn us away because it wasn't anything, because I really wasn't feeling anything. Here we are at the birth center where this little guy was born. Oh, can you believe it?
Huh?
You like this place? Our ride to the hospital felt like 2 minutes. And when we got there, it was about 9 p.m. and they put us into triage, which is where they like test to make sure that you're really in labor before they admit you into the hospital. We got into triage and they tested like a urine sample and like tested some other things to make sure that it was my water that broke. And they put like one of those like bands around your stomach. So I feel like we were in there for what felt like forever. And we were watching like funny videos for, I think it was like maybe 2 hours later. The nurse came in and was like, yeah, your water broke, congratulations, you're going in. We're gonna admit you. And we were both like, us into a room, and it was super late and we called our families and told them like what was happening, and we were so anxious and nervous about it. The nurses were so amazing at this birth center. Like I literally wanted to marry them all. They are so amazing, and I want to give birth to all of my kids here because I had the most amazing experience. And then they left us for the night and they were like, you know what, you aren't like really dilated, you're at a 2 and you don't really seem like you're having contractions, so let's just wait till the morning and then we'll start you on Pitocin, which is supposed to like increase your contractions and start them. I feel like I had so much anxiety that I could not sleep at all. I seriously didn't get like any sleep that night, and Connor didn't feel good, so he was like super tired and he fell asleep and I didn't want to wake him up, so I feel like I just laid in bed and like tossed and turned all night. Had no idea what to expect. Next morning at 6 a.m. they started me on the Pitocin. I was feeling great. I wasn't feeling anything, no contractions, and they had me like bouncing on the ball and doing like different positions, and I was feeling so good. I remember FaceTiming my mom and like Maddie and Lo, and I was like bouncing on the ball and I'm like, guys, I got this, like this is awesome, like if this is it, like I can do this, I'm gonna crush this. And I remember my mom saying, okay, either like you have a way high pain tolerance, because they could see contractions on the monitor, on the screen, and they were like, could you feel that? I was like, no. They were like, what about that one? I'm like, no. And so I was like bouncing on the ball, and my mom was like, either you have a super high pain tolerance or those aren't contractions, like you're not in labor. The nurses kept coming in, and by this point it was like noon, and they checked me again and I still hadn't progressed at all. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was starting to get kind of nervous at this point because I didn't know why my body wasn't progressing, why like I wasn't dilating more, and neither did the nurses. So, and I was up to the highest dose of Pitocin at this point, so they couldn't really do anything else as far as like the Pitocin, so they had to try some other things. Water had been broken for 24 hours. The doctors were concerned, I don't know about how it is at other hospitals, but the doctor was concerned that for like a risk of infection if you don't have the baby within 24 hours. So they decided that we were gonna have to try something else. And we did this like bulb, I'm not sure exactly what they're called, but that thing friggin' sucked. They fill it with water and they put it up above your cervix so that it will like force your cervix to dilate. So they put that in and my contractions went from 0 to 100 so fast, and it was so painful, and I was having like a really hard time getting through them. Connor was so sweet. He kept like rubbing my back and trying to help, and I was just in a super bad mood. I was like, don't touch me. Like, I hate this. I'm so pissed right now. After like 2 hours of those really painful contractions, the bulb finally fell out. So that means that I was at a 5 or a 6 dilation. At that point, I was able to get like pain medicine because they couldn't do anything while I had that bulb in until it fell out. Before I went into labor, I was kind of planning to do natural if I could. I wanted to see how long I could make it and see like how it went, because obviously I had no idea what labor is like. So I didn't know like if I felt like I was going to be able to do that. I wanted to, and I had that idea, but after laboring for a few hours with those like gnarly contractions, I was like, give me the freaking epidural. So they brought in the epidural, and I react pretty strongly to medicine. So when I asked for the epidural, I actually asked for like a smaller dose because I know that like I wanted a smaller dose. So he gave me a half dose, and even with the half dose of epidural, I was like so dizzy and I was seeing double vision, and it was just like, I just felt really sick. So I'm glad that I got a half dose just to kind of like fill it out, but looking back, I wish I would have done a full because I could still feel a lot on like my left side. And after watching like my friends give birth, I realized like I was in a lot more pain than I should have been. But he stayed there, the anesthesiologist stayed there for a while until my epidural like started kicking in and I was feeling a little bit better. And by that point they were like, you know what, you should definitely get some rest. I was at like a 6 or a 7 dilation. They were like, you should definitely get some rest. I was able to like lay down and get some rest, and I think it was about like 6 or 7 p.m. at this point. I woke up and I remember I was so freaking hungry because I hadn't eaten in like 24 hours. You're not supposed to eat after or before a certain amount of time, just in case like there's complications. And if you know me, you know I have to eat like every 2 hours. Just couldn't wait to eat again. I was just like thinking about the first meal after birth. I'm like, what am I gonna eat? I'm so excited. It was about 8 p.m. I was so concerned because I had this same doctor that I loved. I just loved her personality and I felt like so close to her. The whole pregnancy, she had done like all my appointments. She was there when Connor passed out at the first ultrasound. She just like knew my situation, and so I really, really wanted her, but she wasn't on call that day and she wasn't gonna be there, and I was so concerned because I really I didn't want anybody else. And so I remember she came and they kept telling me like, we'll try and get her, we'll try and get her. And I remember when she showed up, I literally started crying because I was like, you're literally the best. Like, I love you so much. I was so emotional that she was there. An hour later, I finally got to a 10 dilation and they called the doctor and she was like, don't push until I get there. But if you've had a baby before, you know that the feeling that like feels like, oh my gosh, like I have to push is like you have to poop. I know that's TMI, but I felt that like really strong. So I was like, I really don't know like how much longer I can wait. So we did like a few practice pushes before, like with my nurse before my doctor got there. And when my doctor showed up, I like started crying because I was so happy that she was able to come, and I was just so emotional. And then my friends Lo and Heather showed up and they helped like fix my hair a little bit because I was like, it'd been 24 hours, more than 20, yeah, it'd been 24 hours at this point, a little bit more. So I was looking pretty rough, and they came and like dry shampooed my hair and just helped me like feel better and helped me get like a little bit more like energy and excited about what was about to happen. Glammed up for the big push. Around like 10 p.m. and pushing for me was really hard because I was still in a lot of pain, and looking back now, I was in a lot more pain than I should have been, probably because I had that half dose of epidural instead of the full. And so I remember when I was pushing, I pushed for about 45 minutes. It was fun pushing because you had like a whole support crew there. Like you had all the nurses and the doctor and like all your friends, and Connor was like looking at me, and it was fun. You had like this whole like group cheering you on. But by like, yeah, I think 30 minutes in, I felt the strongest like ring of fire, and I was in so much pain. And I remember just saying like, I don't know if I can do it anymore. Like I don't know how many more I can do. Like I was so exhausted, and all of them were like, you can do it, don't give up, like you got this, like you're so close, we can see the head, all this stuff. So I was feeling the adrenaline, and about 15 minutes later, Krew finally came. And it had been like 27 hours. It was like 11 o'clock, 10:59 or something like that the next day. And that moment when they like put him on my chest was the most amazing moment I've ever experienced in my life. I'm trying not to get emotional. It was so sweet to be able to see. One, I was so relieved that like, oh my gosh, like I'm finally done, like this is over. And two, that like this little human that we had created was finally ours. And it was just the most amazing and overwhelming experience. I remember looking at Connor, and he was crying, and I was crying, and all of our friends and the nurses, some of them were crying. And I remember feeling like so close to my Heavenly Father in that moment. And also I remember feeling like my grandma, who had passed away 4 years ago right after Connor and I got married, I felt her in the room, like she was like my angel helping me and watching over me. And so it was like the most special moment. There's a few moments after Krew came out, like he wasn't breathing, which is normal, but it is kind of scary because you're like, oh my gosh, like they have to take their first breath before they can start crying. So crying is actually like a really good sound. And I just remember that moment felt like forever because he like hadn't cried. And then he finally took his breath and started crying, and it was the most precious sound. I took in that moment with Connor while the doctor stitched me up. I had like a pretty bad tear, but the worst of that was just yet to come. And it was the most amazing moment. That's the moment that I'm so excited for the rest of our babies. It's just so special to be there with, like, I loved actually being there just with Connor, and especially for our first, not having like a ton of people in the room, because it felt really special to have it just be like him and I's moment. I was so proud of Connor actually. It's about him because he gets pretty queasy with blood and like stuff like that, and he actually passed out at our first ultrasound.
Yes, I did.
And so I was kind of nervous that like he wasn't gonna be able to like handle all of like everything that was going on. And he actually did so good. What do you feel like it was? Adrenaline kicked in or something?
I just never looked down there.
He just never looked down there. Never looked back. Just looked in my eyes the whole time.
And I cut the umbilical cord.
And yeah, he cut the cord after, and I was so proud of him. Looking down, and he's like, is that the umbilical cord? And all the nurses were like, yeah, but don't look, like, don't look, don't pass out. They all were like, no. And he was like, can I cut it? And we were like, what? Like, I was so proud of him. He measured at 8 pounds, 6 ounces, and 21.5 inches long. We're so glad he was also healthy and strong and didn't have any like conditions. We're so grateful for that. And we were able to take him home the next day. Krew, say bye.
See ya.
Bye.